So we will start like usual in our seated mountain. And just finding a comfortable supported seat, sitting slightly forward in the chair so we're not leaning back or the core is helping to support the spine. Hands can rest wherever is comfortable and maybe letting the eyes close or soften. We'll just settle in for a moment. Bringing the focus inwards and letting go of anything that's already happened today or anything that's going to happen later. Just enjoying being present here and now for this time of practicing yoga. And bringing the focus to your breath, in and out through the nose. The breath is what helps root us, mind and body, in the present moment. So anytime we find ourselves distracted by thoughts or anything at all, we can always come back to the breath, grounding and rooting us back in the here and now. And taking a moment to just do a quick scan of your body, just noticing how it feels today. Noticing if there's any tense sensation or tightness anywhere throughout your body, and just sending a little kindness there. And then also checking in with your heart, with the state of your emotions. Noticing any anxiety or stress that might be present for you, and the same as we did with the physical sensations, just sending a little love and kindness to yourself. We'll take a few rounds of our 3-part breath. So breathing in, filling up the belly, feeling the breath slide up through the ribs and into the heart. And then exhale out through the chest, down through the rib cage, and then drawing the navel toward the spine, squeezing out every last drop of air. And taking a few breaths like that just on your own. Noticing the sensations of the air moving in and out of your body. Taking one more round of inhales and exhales like that. And then returning to your natural breath, just letting it flow naturally. And then when you're ready, letting the eyes flutter back open. And we have some new people joining us. Hi, welcome. And we'll get started our warm up with just some gentle movements of the head and neck. So we've done this before, so we'll inhale in the center and then exhale looking over the right shoulder. Inhaling back through center and then exhaling looking to the left. So just moving like that a few times. letting your own inhales and exhales set the pace of your movements. And eventually the head comes back to center, and we'll shift the gaze up on the inhale. And then on the exhale, chin comes toward the chest. And flowing through a few rounds, movement and breath, looking up and down. And then maybe holding the head, looking up, feeling that openness in the front of the throat. Maybe even taking the backs of your fingers and just brushing upwards on your neck, stimulating this area of the body. And taking one more last inhale here, and then exhaling, letting the chin drop to the chest and holding there. And here, maybe clasping the hands back behind the head. Just weighing down the head a little bit. And then releasing the hands and letting the head come back up to center. And we'll drop the right ear toward the right shoulder. And then some arm options are cradling the head with the right hand, maybe letting the left hand extend out to the side to making almost a line of energy, stretching out to the ends of the left fingertips. Releasing from here and then switching sides, left ear dropping down and then coming into those arm options. If it feels good, you can stay in any of these positions, whatever feels most natural in your body. Maybe noticing a difference between the sides. Maybe one side's tighter, more open than the other. And coming back to center, releasing the arms. We'll send the arms out to a T, and we'll flip the palms backward and forward. So just rotating the arms and shoulders, flipping the palms. Be experimenting with the range of motion. Maybe you can twist a little bit more. And then we'll bring the tips of the fingers to the tips of the shoulders. And one at a time, we'll just paddle the arms backwards. And then shifting back into the other direction. And then when you're ready, releasing the arms. Now we'll lift the arms out in front and just bend and flex the wrists. And And then eventually clasping the hands and rolling out the wrists or any kind of motion that feels good in your joints. Maybe more in a circle or maybe in a figure 8 movement. Releasing the hands, and we'll make fists and then extend the fingers wide, stretching the fingers. And then maybe just giving the hands a little shake. And then letting the hands release down to the sides, maybe feeling a little tingling from the shoulders down to the tips of the fingers. And so we'll do a little bit of an arm flow, another energy building practice, and we'll be alternating arms. This is kind of similar to what we normally do, but a little different. So on an inhale, we'll lift up the left arm, coming up by the ears, and then letting it float down on the exhale, and then we'll switch arms. So left arm rises. And if it's not comfortable to rise all the way up by the ear, you can stop whenever it doesn't feel good. We'll lift the arm out to the side this time and back down. And then other arm out to the side and back down. And we'll just keep on switching back and forth. So coming forward and then the other arm comes forward. And then out to the side. And then if it's comfortable, maybe both hands lift at the same time. So lifting both hands up. And then coming down. And then out and up to the sides. And then floating back down. Just keeping that flowing for a couple more rounds. Let's do that once more. Floating back down. To sides and then back down. So bringing the hands to the thighs and making sure you're seated forward in the chair so your back's not resting on the back of the chair. We'll come into our cat and cow stretch. So taking an inhale here in the center, and then as you exhale, sliding the hands forward toward the knees and then rounding the back towards the back of the chair. And then on the inhale, we'll come back in the other direction. So hands slide back towards the body, back arches and the chest opens. And then we'll move back and forth using your breath as your guide once again. We're just rounding and arching the spine. And then if it's comfortable, if it feels good, maybe the head and neck lift as you inhale, and then the chin comes towards the chest as you exhale and round the spine. So we'll do just about one more round. So one more round of your cat and cow, and then we'll return back to our neutral spine and seated mountain. And from here, we'll come into our seated eagle pose. So if it's comfortable for you, maybe crossing the right leg over the left. If crossing the legs isn't comfortable, you don't have to do that. You can just do the arms. So we have the right leg crossed over the left and kind of drawing the thighs together. So it's a really active pose in the lower body. So even though we're in the chair, we can still be activated in the lower body. Then we'll send the arms out to a T and then give yourself a bear hug, crossing the right arm underneath the left. So the right leg is crossed over and the right arm is crossed under. And you can stay in this bear hug position, or if it's in your practice, you can move into eagle arm, so winding your forearms around, working the palms towards each other. Either way, we're opening up the upper back. So maybe try and focus your attention on the space between your shoulders. And as you breathe, as you inhale, maybe thinking of that space expanding. Meanwhile, keeping that activation in the legs, whether they're crossed or not. And we'll take one more inhale here. And then as we exhale, we'll release the arms, keeping the legs crossed. And we'll bring the left hand to the right knee. And then the right hand can come to the hip or maybe the back of the chair. And we'll just gently twist the torso and upper body over to the right. And taking one more inhale here. And on the exhale, releasing, untwisting, and then uncrossing the legs if they've crossed. And we'll switch sides. So this time we'll cross the left leg over. Once again, grounding down, maybe sort of almost clenching the thighs together, having that activation in the legs and lower body. We'll send the arms out wide, and then this time, the left arm will cross underneath the right. And either coming into that bear hug position or moving into eagle arms, whichever one is your preferred option. And again, just enjoying the openness in the upper back. And wherever you are, making sure to breathe. We'll take one more inhale. And then exhaling, releasing the arms. Legs remain crossed, and we'll bring the right hand to the left knee, left hand either on the hip or the chair, and then twisting this time to the left. And taking a few breaths here. And then one more inhale. And then on the exhale, releasing from the twist, uncrossing the legs. And maybe it feels good to grab onto the sides of the chair and just do some windshield wipers with the legs, just letting the knees drop from one side to the other. And then eventually resetting in our seated mountain. We'll walk the feet a little bit closer together. Maybe even the insides of the feet are touching. And then we'll let the knees drop out into a butterfly position and then bring the knees back together. Just letting the knees drop in and out. Starting to open up the hips. And releasing from that movement, and we'll walk the feet back out about hip distance apart. And now the hands can either come to the hips or grabbing onto the chair, whatever gives you the most stability. And we'll do some work in the legs. And if it's not comfortable to lift the leg all the way off the floor, you can just extend it out, resting on the heel. That's fine as well. But we're going to do a little flow, again, alternating the legs. So we'll send the right leg out, lifting the leg out and up. Then in, drawing the knee in, then back out, and then back down on the floor. And so we'll repeat that on the other side. Extending the leg out, drawing the knee in, extending it out, and then back down. And so we'll keep on flowing like that. And again, it's up to you how much or how little the leg gets lifted. And notice your abs and your core as you do this. Maybe you feel them gently tightening, helping to support the core of your body. And we'll do one more round of these on each side. And then eventually both feet come back onto the floor. Hands can release down onto the thighs. Now we're going to alternate. I'm just going to slide back a little so that you can see my feet, but you can stay where you are. We're going to alternate coming up onto our tippy toes. So just pressing up into the ball of the right foot, lifting the heel up off the mat, and then bringing it back down, and then switching sides. So lifting the left heel up and putting it back down. And just walking out the feet like this. Switching side to side. And you can continue going like this, or maybe giving a little bit of added pressure into the leg with the hands. So pressing down on the thigh as the heel lifts. And then switching sides, pressing down into the thigh, just building a little resistance, helping to build a little strength in the legs. And we'll do this once more on each side. And coming back eventually to our mountain pose. And we'll walk the feet just a little bit wider now, maybe just a little bit wider than your chair. And we'll inhale to lift and lengthen through the spine. And then on the exhale, we'll come down onto the forearms. So the forearms come onto the thighs. The back is sort of flat. And then maybe the tips of your fingers come to touch. And so before, when we were breathing in eagle, we were breathing into the upper part of the back. And in this position, we feel more of a stretch in the lower back. So maybe thinking about directing your attention and your breath to the lower back. And then if it's in your practice and you feel like your spine is okay with it, you can round the spine and fold all the way forward over the legs, letting the head and neck just hang over the legs or staying in that sort of halfway fold position. And then from wherever you are, walking yourself back up. And so now we'll walk the feet even a little bit wider, preparing for our goddess pose. And again, just only as wide as you're comfortable. We don't want any stretching to the point of discomfort or pain. So it doesn't have to be so wide. And the toes are turned out to the corners. And from here, we'll do another little arm flow. So on an inhale, we'll sweep the right arm forward and then exhale, opening the arm out and twisting to the right. Inhaling back to center and then exhale, releasing the arm. And then switching sides, inhale, left arm comes up. Exhale, twisting to the left. Inhaling back to center, and then exhale, arm releases. And so using your own breath to flow in and out of this gentle twisting sequence. Again, keeping the lower body active. So maybe the feet are almost pressing into the ground beneath you. And we'll do this once more each side. And then once you've finished, coming back to center in goddess pose. We'll open the chest now, coming into an extended side angle. So we'll bring the right forearm down to the right thigh. And you can stay here or maybe put the hand on the hip feeling the chest is nice and open in this position. Another option is sending the left arm up towards the sky, maybe even looking up towards that left hand. And maybe if your arm is extended, thinking again of that line of energy coming from the tips of the fingers and extending all the way down to your right toes. Now on your next inhale, we'll rise back up to the center, releasing the arm. And we'll switch sides, so coming down onto the left forearm. And then maybe the hand comes to the hip, or maybe it extends up towards the sky. And again, your gaze can be wherever is comfortable, but an option might be to gaze up at the extended arm. And on your next inhale, rising back up. Then we'll bring the feet a little bit closer together, maybe again about the width of the chair or a little wider. And this is kind of like our cat-cow. We're going to be tilting the hips. Like imagining the hips are like a bowl. And as we inhale, we'll tilt the bowl forward. And then as we exhale, tip it back and the low back rounds a little bit. So it's sort of like the cat-cow movement, only we're not doing the arms. So just tilting the pelvis gently, tipping that bowl forward and backward. And then when you're ready, releasing from that movement, resetting, and the feet can walk back towards our seated mountain. And so now we're going to move into our warrior two, and there's an option to stand. So I'll demonstrate first the seated version and then the standing version. So you can choose your own adventure, whichever one feels good for you. So seated version, we'll turn the right knee out, so the right toes are pointing to the side. And the left leg can stay here in front if that's all you need, or if you'd like a little bit more, you can extend the left leg back and the left toes are slightly turned in. So this is our warrior two.
And I just got a message that my headset battery ran out, so hopefully you can still hear me. Great. Okay. Okay. So this is our seated warrior two. So feel free to stay there. The standing version is going to come up behind the chair, so using the chair for support. We'll step out with the right foot and slightly back with the left foot. So the right toes are turned out toward the side, left toes turned slightly in. And then we'll sink into that front knee and using the chair as a support here. And from here, we'll flow in and out of warrior two. So if you're seated, we'll just flow with the arms up and out. And if you're standing, we'll inhale, straightening the front leg, lifting the left arm, and then exhale, sinking and extending the arm. And so just using your own inhales and exhales to move in and out of your warrior two. And again, if you're seated, the arms just come up and out. And then using the chair if you're standing as much or as little as you need. And then eventually we'll come into our warrior two and hold. Again, using the chair with one or both hands as you need, or holding in a seated position. And if you're seated, bringing the left hand to the hip, and if you're standing, bringing the left hand to the chair, we'll flip the front palm and then lift the right arm up and over the head, slightly arching the spine. This is our reverse warrior. So once again, the chest is open. Whether you're standing or seated, the feet are active, pushing against the floor. And we'll take one more inhale here. And then exhale, releasing the arms. And if you're standing, straightening the legs. And if you're seated, just bringing the feet back together in seated mountain. If you're standing, stepping together and maybe just walking out the feet a little bit, rotating the hips. And we'll transition to the other side. And so again, either in the chair or standing, this time the left foot is going to be our front foot. So the left toes turn out. If you're in the chair, that left knee is bent. And the right toes turn slightly in. And then we'll do that same flow. So if you're seated, the knee stays bent and the arms flow. If you're standing, we'll bend and straighten that front leg. So flowing in and out, so maybe using the support of the chair if you're standing. Sorry, I'm doing it backwards. So we're lifting the arms and then sinking into the warrior pose. Like something didn't feel quite right. And then again, maybe both arms rise and sink. And then at some point we'll come into our warrior two and hold, looking out over the left fingertips. And then we'll bring the right hand either to the hip or to the chair. Flip that front palm and then reverse our warrior. The left arm bends up and over. Slight arch of the spine, opening through the chest. Feet are firmly rooted down into the floor. And we're breathing. And we'll take one more inhale here. And then on the exhale, releasing the arm. And stepping the feet back together. And we'll do some hip circles. So you can do this either standing or in the chair. So the feet are a little bit wider than the hips. Hands can come to the hips, and we'll just circle the hips in one direction. And then back in the other direction. Or also if you're standing and it feels better to hold on to the chair, that's fine too. And then releasing the hips. And we'll come into a supported down dog. And again, this is a pose that we can do either standing or seated. So I'm going to come back into my seat and demonstrate the seated version first. And then we'll do standing. So in our seated version, and maybe it would be easier for you to see if I turn my chair to the side. We're sitting forward in the chair, and the feet are extended out in front, toes are lifted. We'll lift the arms up by the ears, and then just hinging from the hips, coming forward, making a V shape with the body. So this is kind of the same shape that we would be in if we were doing a downward facing dog on the floor. And so we'll inhale to rise back up, and then exhale, releasing the arms. And so that's the seated version. So the chair version, we have two options, either the seat of the chair or the back of the chair. So since the seat is facing me, that's what I'll do, but you can also do it standing behind and grabbing the back of the chair. So we'll let the palms rest on the seat of the chair, and then just slowly begin to walk the feet backwards. And eventually finding what feels like a good stopping point for you, and then slowly sinking into the shoulders and feeling a stretch across the low back. And if you try one of these options and it doesn't feel good, then maybe give one of the others a try. And to come out from the chair dog, we very gently walk the feet back towards the chair. And once the feet are back under the chair, we roll very carefully back up. So those are our down dog options. So I'd invite you maybe to take one more down dog, whether it's the same option that you took before or a different one. I'll do one using the back of the chair this time. So we'll move into whichever down dog feels best for you. And in standing down dog, the feet are about hip distance apart, but if it feels better for you to have them wider or closer, just experiment with the position and what feels better. And we'll take just a couple more breaths in our down dog. And when you're ready to come out, again, if you're standing, gently walking back towards the chair, and then rolling up. And then taking all the time you need, we'll come back into our chairs, into a seated position. And resetting in our seated mountains, the feet are hip distance apart, about slightly forward in the chair. And we'll come into a little side stretch flow. We've stretched, I think, every which way but sideways at this point. So we'll bring the left hand to the hip, right hand down by the side. Inhale the right arm up by the ear. Exhale, bending over to the side. And we'll flow back up on the inhale. And then exhale, bending. And we'll just keep that motion going, inhaling to rise and then exhaling to bend. And then if it feels good to hold, maybe holding the side bend. Or you can keep with that dynamic movement if that feels better. We'll inhale to rise back up. Exhale, letting the arm release down by the side. So we'll switch arms. So this time the right hand comes to the hip. On an inhale, the left arm lifts. Exhale, bending to the left. And just flowing back and forth, using your breath to guide the movement. And then if it feels good holding, stretching to the right side, feeling the stretch in the left side of your body. And we'll rise back up on an inhale, and then exhale, letting the arm float back down. And we've got time for one more little hip opener, seated pigeon. So we've got, as always, a couple of different options for that one. So option one is to extend, seated forward in the chair. We'll extend the right leg out in front and then rotate onto the outer edge of the right foot. So the hip is opening out to the side, the knee opens out to the side. So that's seated pigeon option number one. Option number two, for a little bit more intense stretch, pick up the foot and cross the right ankle over the left knee. So just seeing which one feels better for your body today. And then bringing the hands either on the hips or down on the chair. We'll inhale to lift and lengthen the spine. And we'll exhale, folding forward. And we don't need to fold too far, just folding until we start to feel a little hint of a stretch in that right hip. Just breathing here. And on your next inhale, rising back up to seated. If your leg is crossed, helping it back down. And we'll switch sides. So I'll do the other option on this side. So extending the left leg out on the floor and then rotating out onto the outer edge of the left foot, or picking up the foot and crossing the left foot over the right knee. So either one. Hands come to the hips or the chair. We'll inhale, lengthening the spine, and then exhale, just gently hinging forward. And then on your next inhale, rising back up. And then releasing the foot wherever it is. Come back to seated mountain. Be grabbing onto the chair, taking a couple more of those windshield wipers with the knees. And eventually coming back to seated mountain, the resetting. And before we move into our few minutes of relaxation and meditation, we'll take an inhale, drawing the shoulders up toward the ears. And as you do that, contracting the muscles of your face. So you're making a little prude face. And then as you exhale, releasing everything and sighing out through the mouth. We'll do that a few more times. So inhale, contracting, shoulders draw up. And exhale, releasing. Once more like that. And letting the shoulders completely relax away from the ears. And I have just a short guided practice of meditation. If you can stay, that's great. If you need to jump off, that's fine too. Feel free. If you are staying, I would invite you to find a comfortable position in your chair. So now is when you can lean back and just make yourself as comfortable as you can for the next few moments of relaxation. And yes, grab any pillows or blankets or anything to make yourself more cozy. And eventually, maybe letting the eyes close or letting the gaze soften. Just like we did at the beginning, bringing the focus to your breath, just observing it naturally. The air flowing in and out through the nose. And also, like we did at the beginning, taking a quick scan of your body, noticing how it's feeling. Maybe noticing if it feels any different from when we began almost an hour ago. And also now guiding your attention to your heart, the space around your heart. Checking in with your emotions. So observing how they might have changed since we began this practice. We'll take about 5 deeper breaths. So no need to force anything, just gently deepening the inhale and extending the exhale. And then returning back to your natural breath, just letting it flow. Once again, you can always come back to your breath if you ever find yourself distracted by thoughts, especially during times of quiet and meditation. The breath can always be used to gently guide us back to the present, refocus. As you breathe here, I invite you to bring into your mind a memory from your past, a time when you felt deep joy or happiness. Maybe this is a joyful moment from your childhood or maybe something more recent. Begin to focus on the details of that moment in time, attempting to relive it in your mind, like you were watching a movie of that memory. And embracing that memory, like you're giving it a hug with your mind, drawing it to the center of your consciousness. Letting yourself feel the joyful emotions and sensations that you felt. Maybe physical sensations, sights, sounds, and smells that you experienced in that moment. Maybe even the tastes if food was involved. And as you breathe in and out, really allowing yourself to experience this memory in your physical body and in your heart. Keeping the hold of those feelings. Beginning to picture what it might look like to recreate them in your life today. Maybe it's with different people in a different location or doing a different activity, but just working to cultivate those same feelings of joy, those physical sensations and those joyful emotions that you felt in that moment. As you visualize this new joyful moment, maybe picturing your breath, breathing joy into your body with every inhale, And then releasing joy back out into the world with every exhale. Breathing joy in and releasing joy back out. When you're ready, beginning to release that visualization. Take 5 more deep cleansing breaths. And letting your breath return to its natural rhythm, in and out through the nose. As we begin to come back into our body, taking any gentle movements, wiggling the fingers and toes. Maybe taking some slightly larger movements, maybe taking a stretch. Whatever will feel good for your body. Eventually, returning to stillness and bringing your hands together, resting in front of your heart. Another option. One hand over the heart, and your other hand on top of that hand. Just taking another moment in stillness, fully receiving all the benefits of today's practice. And sending yourself some love and kindness, some gratitude for taking this pause to refocus your mind and body. Maybe extending those same thoughts of loving kindness to everyone who's practicing together today. And maybe all beings throughout the universe, that everyone might be happy, healthy, and at peace. Namaste.